Welcome into the Friday edition. Robby and Rexrode here on 102.5, 106.3 The Game. I'm Joe Rexrode. Jake Lyman in today for Robbie Stanley. Connor Newt, his fifth straight day in for Ian. Broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service. And Robby and Rexrode sponsored by First Horizon. Big bank muscle, small bank hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. Fellas, how we doing? How is everybody doing? Now, I know, Connor, you probably have some accumulated fatigue. Jake,
you get used to it a little bit.
Right. That's what I'm thinking is, it's only my first one and the only one of the week that I have to wake up early. Connor may be getting used to it, but, also 5 straight days, it can wear on you a little bit.
We're going to undo it tonight. Don't worry.
Friday is the big, for me, it's like sometimes the nap hits harder.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like it's more necessary. So there's a little bit of a cumulative effect. But you have been traveling.
Yes.
Jake Lyman.
Yes. I flight landed a little under 12 hours ago. So we hop off the plane, right? It was like 5:36 we got in and, get some rest after the hockey game last night and get on in here. Excited to be back.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's unfortunate. This series is fantastic, and it's really unfortunate that it's great that it went to overtime, that Florida did it again. It's never happened before in a series where you've had 2 tying goals that late. But also it's unfortunate because I couldn't do it. I couldn't do overtime. So I had to watch the highlights of the Leon Draisaitl goal, which ties the Stanley Cup final in overtime. But man, it's been pretty special.
Yeah, I saw Panthers go up 3-0 in the first, and I was like, sweet, I might actually get to go to bed decently early and not have to worry about missing anything. And I don't know what the Oilers did during that first intermission, but they tie it. They take the lead. Obviously, Panthers score with 19 seconds left to send it to overtime. But you're right. This has been one of the back-to-back years. We've had pretty great Stanley Cup finals between these two teams. Now you're heading to Game 5 back in Edmonton. I think it's gonna be a good finish to the series again.
Yeah, I'm really excited about these last 3 that I'm counting on 3 games and a Game 7. It just seems like it's destined for that, and just incredible. For the Oilers to they switch goalies. Skinner's out. My gosh, his name is eluding me, and my gosh, that really bothers me. Pickard is in. Thank you. I figured it out. And one kept talking and figured it out. And he had one huge save when it was 3-1. And man, it's a tremendous performance by him as the highlights play behind you, Jake. But it just thought it was over completely. And I think Robby said it going into that game. That was like a legacy game for those guys. Not that you couldn't come back down 3-1, but it's going to be real tough to pull that off. This is a big moment for those 2 guys in particular, Draisaitl and McDavid.
Right. I think I said when the third goal scored in what, it was like a span of 7 minutes that the Panthers scored 3 in the first period. I was like, I know they came back from 3 games down last year and forced Game 7, but I thought that was the series. You lose 6-1 in Game 3, you go down 3-0 in the first period in Game 4. It kind of felt like the Panthers were ready to run away with it. But that second period, even though Edmonton was able to tie the game up, Sergei Bobrovsky was awesome too. Like the Oilers could have scored 6 goals on him in that period. He had multiple huge saves, another one in the third period. I think he had a big one in overtime that I saw that I was asleep for. But what a game! And I think you're right. I would be shocked if one of these 2 teams is able to win back-to-back games and finish it off in 6.
Yeah, I guess anything's possible. But the games themselves, have just been fantastic. Look, like for my money, I think both of these series and the NBA series right now is exceeding my expectations just because I didn't even know that it would be competitive. But as you may learn, Jake, if I say anything good about the NBA, people get mad. So we must say that the NBA sucks in modern life. But I've been happy with that series. But this series is vintage, Stanley Cup playoffs hockey. It's it wasn't even we've talked about this before. Like, I didn't necessarily think we were going to have a rematch again this year. It didn't look like it wasn't like, these are clearly the best two teams. I mean, I think Florida has been one of those teams. You knew Edmonton could get there. It wasn't like this was some preordained thing, but now that they're playing, it's like this had to be the final series.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think it was last year we were talking when the Panthers went up 3-0 in that series last year, that the Stanley Cup Finals just hadn't been all that competitive. It'd been a while since we'd seen a Game 7. It was Golden Knights in 5 or 6 over the Panthers the year before that. The Avalanche kind of ran away with it the year before that. It's really refreshing to get these, especially overtime hockey in the Stanley Cup Final. Like, I don't know if there's anything better in sports than overtime playoff hockey, let alone in a Stanley Cup Final where, I mean, one goal changes the entire series. If Draisaitl doesn't score and the Panthers are able to go up 3-1, series probably is over. But instead, now we're talking about a huge Game 5, Edmonton back on home ice with a chance to take the series lead. I think it is the best thing in sports. I think baseball can maybe give it a run for its money when you get into late innings in a close game, but overtime Stanley Cup Final hockey might be the best thing in sports.
It's up there. There's no doubt. And the fatigue starts to set in. All of a sudden, you just have mistake after mistake and primo opportunity after primo, and it's like you can't. There's nothing you can do about it, and it's just you're just on the edge of your seat. Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, a great pitcher, great hitter, high leverage, late inning postseason.
Right.
The pitcher batter confrontation. That's. Now, I know, again, some people love baseball, some people don't, whatever. But I mean, I think that's way up there too. But yeah, this would be, so last year was the first 7-gamer since the Blues beat the Bruins in 19.
Right.
And that
was 5 years.
Yeah. So, and gosh, really, then you go back to the Bruins over the Canucks in 11. So we have not had a lot of this. Now I'm getting flashbacks of the Penguins beating my Red Wings in 09. Oh, that was a killer. But there aren't too many of these. So if we get back-to-back 7-game series between these teams, nothing to complain about. And, we've talked about McDavid. We've talked about, like, if it doesn't work out, does Connor McDavid look around and say, maybe this isn't the place for me. Maybe I'm going to hold off on signing that gigantic extension, which is going to be offered to him this summer.
Right. And that is a big question of, if back-to-back years they get this close and come up short, does he start to wonder if it's ever going to get done in Edmonton? Connor McDavid being available in any way across the NHL would rival any free agency in any sport ever.
Yeah, it'd be something.
I mean, watching him play last night, the way that he handles the puck is just different than any other player, at least I've seen in my lifetime. It's like he's playing basketball and everybody else is out there on skates, which they are. I mean, he made the one defenseman fall. I'm blanking on who it was. And if it wasn't for Bobrovsky sliding the pad over, he would have scored easily.
Yeah, he just ripped through everybody.
Right.
Yeah.
So, we'll see. I would think that at this point they kind of get it done. I think last night's a big momentum shift, and now you do have home ice advantage back again. You just got to win your home games, and you have an opportunity to win the Stanley Cup. But yeah, if he doesn't get it done, I think a lot of questions are going to start to rise of whether he wants to be in Edmonton long term.
Yeah, and maybe there is nothing there. I mean, maybe it's just a no-brainer, and he's bought in. I mean, look, when it comes down to it, even if you don't win it, we are talking about 2 straight trips to the doorstep. It would be very deflating to get this close 2 years in a row and not get it done. I mean, I think they've done a pretty good job around him, all things considered. Now the number's going up for him. The number's going up to an unprecedented number. The cap keeps going up, but it's there's certainly no guarantee that if he looks around, goes somewhere else, unless there's just somewhere he really wants to live other than Edmonton, which I could think of about a million places on the planet that you could probably put on that list. But, I'd like to see them win it. I'd like to see him win it because he's too good not to lift the cup. And as much as, I mean, Florida's a great team, easy to root for too. I think Paul Maurice is easy to root for. but it'd be great to see McDavid get it done. To your point on home ice, that's one thing though, is like it doesn't necessarily mean that much.
It means
sport,
less in hockey for sure. I think you're right too about, Connor McDavid, great player. I'd like to see him win it. And they have surrounded him with a lot of talent, but the goaltending has been a problem the last couple of years. And I wonder if maybe if he does sign that extension, if he starts to have some input on, hey, go out there and get us somebody who can stop the puck, because we're doing everything we can to score on the other end. But when Stuart Skinner's given up 3 goals in the first period, you're putting them in a hole that they're not always going to be able to dig themselves out of and get a win.
Yeah, I mean, certainly the goaltending can be better. They are another example of why everybody would love to have a great goalie, but there are things more important than that in today's NHL.
Sure. Yeah.
Which then I look at the Preds and I'm like, man, could have
$8 million a year.
Yeah, exactly. For at least last year, not very good performance. If you'd like to join the conversation, the game phone and text line driven by WilsonCountyHunter.com 615-737-1025. I am in the chat today. I am in the text line today. It is working. This is exciting. Also, the YouTube chat going, and I'm disappointed the YouTube chat has started up and no one has ripped Brian Ellerby. That's usually the first thing that we get in the YouTube chat. All right, we come back. We are going to get into the Tennessee Titans. So a lot of Cam Ward yesterday. A lot of Cam Ward conversation. He was available. He had some interesting stuff to say after an interesting day on the field, and we'll get into a lot of that. Robby and Rexrode 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode 125 1063 The Game. Jake climbing in for Robby. Connor Newt wrapping up his week in place of Ian and playing some Aerosmith. Nice job, man.
We love Aerosmith.
We love Aerosmith?
We do.
Okay, good. Good to know. Old souls. So Cam Ward yesterday apparently had a not a great day. Had a couple picks, so take that for what it's worth. It's mini camp, but he threw a couple picks. I know one of them he said, "Well, 7-on-7, it doesn't count." I'm like, all right, I like that. It doesn't count.
He said it's not real football.
Not real football. Yeah, I don't know if any of it's real football, but it's even less real football when you play 7-on-7.
Right.
So he threw another pick. Had some ups and downs, but I mean, I think overall, performed fine this week. But I got to say, Cam Ward, he is becoming a must-listen interview. Definitely not afraid to speak freely, which I appreciate. That means we have to bleep stuff, so I hope Connor bleeped some of these clips out. But let's listen to a little bit of Cam Ward after practice yesterday.
What's your plan for the next 5 to 6 weeks before you report to camp and when you gather with your receivers and some of the other quarterbacks and go over things just to kind of refresh everybody?
Just work out, stay in the playbook, and throw the ball. So
We saw a pretty good back and forth with you and Jeffrey, I guess, from his first day back. What's that been like, and what's it been like kind of exchanging trash talk with the defense?
it's been good. I need somebody like that, especially somebody like Jeff who's going to let you know he's there. Every time he's one of the best defensive tackles in the league, if not the best. I'm glad he's on my team. I'm glad he's not one of the ones who gets a chance to get a free shot at me. But, I mean, I'm happy I'm playing with him. I know he's, excited about my future, but, I can't wait to get on the field with him on Sunday.
That was, I guess I should give credit on the Twitter. That was Andrew, our friend Andrew. That was his tweet. Did you just like mute it, or did you fast forward?
You just cut out the middle of it, right?
I cut out the middle. I cut out the R in the fart.
Okay.
You
don't like bleeps?
More effectively,
like bleeps.
the bleep is more
I
dramatic.
didn't have a beep
readily
available.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
You did it more effectively than Jared did when I produced for him a couple weeks ago. He had one of the Raw Room Darren Bates clips talking about Belichick, and he barely cut out any of the R when he was editing it. But you did a good job. I don't think the FCC is going to come calling.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I did. Yeah, I almost thought that it would like you sped it up, like you just went past it. Okay, so then so that's him on throw the bleep out of the football.
Bleep.
Here's this is a Kaharski. This is courtesy of Kaharski on his picks, which I just spoiled the surprise, but we can listen to him actually say it. It's better when you hear him say it.
The first one, 7-on-7, I don't count that. It's not real football. I'm glad I threw it to Cody. That was 6 points for my team. The second one, I should have sidearmed it. I don't know why I did some generic stuff. And really just getting better off the film. Got to continue to move backwards with my eyes. And then really just, playing clean football, especially in the red zone. I have to take care of the ball. I'm aware of that. But, I'd rather do all the crazy stuff in practice. So the game, I know I can get away with it.
So there you go. And by the way, he's referencing the leadership teams.
Yeah, the 8 teams.
Right, the 8 different teams, and which I don't totally understand. I don't even really want to totally understand it. But the bottom line is he's trying to get different people hanging out and foster some leadership and make some competitive stuff, and it's whatever. It's fine. Like it's not worth having a parade over. It's not worth getting mad over. I mean, some people who listen will want to have a parade for it. Some people who work at the station want to like make a big deal out of it and, condemn it. It's fine.
Right. Cam Ward saying that he's happy that one of his leadership teammates was the one who picked him off isn't going to lead to any kind of results on Sundays, because if you're playing the 49ers, Fred Warner's not going to be on his leadership team. So I don't think Cam Ward's going to be very happy if he hits him for an interception.
That's right. Now, that is real football.
Yes. So, once they get the pads on.
But Cam is he's look, it's hard not to like him, and I'm trying to imagine, moving forward once there is real football. I think he's going to be I think he's from a media perspective, he's going to be really good, Now when you get into some rough times and you have a rough day and you lose or whatever, it'll be interesting how that dynamic works. But what do we think about not the play, but just sort of the swagger and sort of the personality that we're seeing more and more of here in the early going for Cam Ward?
I think you have to have that kind of confidence and swagger if you're going to play quarterback at a high level in the NFL. And I get that there's plenty of quarterbacks who are confident who don't end up being very good. Like Will Levis, I think, had a similar type of swagger, maybe in a different way, but you could tell that he was going out there confident last offseason. And I'm sure that there were a lot of very similar discussions about Will Levis. And obviously the results didn't follow last season, but I don't think you can go out there playing scared. I think you look even further back. One of the large reasons Marcus Mariota didn't work out here is because I just don't think he had the dog in himself, the innate confidence that he was going to go out there and dominate somebody on every single Sunday, on every single play. Cam Ward seems to at least have that mindset. And who knows, maybe if he has a couple of bad weeks in a row, he starts to lose some of that confidence, but I wouldn't bet on it. It seems like that dude, he believes in himself no matter what the results are out there on the field, which is good, but also you wonder if it could get him into trouble if he starts to become a little overconfident in his abilities.
Yeah, look, I mean, first of all, there are comparisons to Levis because one of the things about Levis was, the death picks, the occasional just being too loose with the football, and just not really calculating risk reward, in the moment on the field. I mean, that's a thing with him. That was a thing with Cam Ward at times at Miami last year. I mean, he made some plays you absolutely can't try in the NFL. Don't know if he will or not, but we'll have some other comments from him that are kind of along those lines that I thought were interesting. On the YouTube chat, Jared says, we got ourselves a farting dog. Distinguished Gentleman says, Cam's a winner. We finally got us one. We are due. So again, like, look, I'm not going to sit here and throw cold water on everything. I like it too. I like the demeanor. I do like the confidence. We can have we're going to have Jared at 7. Has an interesting definition of confidence. Apparently, you're not allowed to have confidence. I don't know. He read some Bill Belichick book thing, and I'm like, I'm so confused by the word confidence. I must have a different definition than he does. But there is also the fact that you have to change your game, at this level. And so I do wonder if he is going to be too much of a risk taker. I mean, that's my concern, is just on the field. Like, you have to taper that down. In this league, they'll make you pay way more than any college football team will make you pay.
Yes, the windows are a lot tighter, and you have to have perfect timing, and you can't throw the ball back over the middle of the field. Like, that's the one rule. And I know that's what he did yesterday in the not real interception that he threw to Cody Barton, but you can't be rolling to your right and try and throw back to the middle of the field. I think it was the Duke game last year where he had a play like that, where he was almost at the sideline and just tried to huck it back over the middle of the field, and it ended up being a huge pick. Which, if you watch his film, it's kind of similar to Will Levis at times. I think in a different way. Like, Levis is so tight out there, and I think he's trying to do too much. Cam Ward, I think it is more just, I'm going to play loose, and I believe I can beat you with this. But it is the same of, like, you'll have back-to-back plays where he makes a throw where you say, I don't know a lot of guys on earth who can make that throw, and then he'll make a bonehead play the very next snap. So
yeah, there was also the Cal game. It was, I think, the perfect representation of, like, what you hope to bring to the NFL and also what has to not come to the NFL. He made a play just like you're talking about in that game. They were toast. They were going to lose. Then at the end, the 2 drives, and he was spectacular, and that's when it matters most. But I thought that game was a perfect representation of the pluses and minuses. You're right. I think Levis would be, some of his stuff is like, rather than take a sack or rather than just make smart play, he tries something weird. Whereas Cam Ward, I do think it's a little more maybe calculated and just like, yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and rip this one.
Right. I think Will Levis was just trying. They're both trying to do too much, but it feels like opposite ends of the spectrum of like Will Levis was, I have to make a play. I have to make a play. I have to make a play. Whereas Cam Ward is, I can make a play and I'm going to make a play. And sometimes that gets you in trouble too.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's probably better, but yeah, exactly. It can still get you in trouble. It's going to be really interesting. Now, there's also another thing that came out yesterday. Did you see the ping pong thing?
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to follow. And I don't even know who put the video.
It was Ridley.
Ridley put it out.
Yep.
Apparently he beat Cam Ward in ping pong. Apparently Cam Ward smashed his paddle. And then the video picks up with the smash paddle, Cam Ward going to the shower, and a lot of bad words being yelled. I mean, I think playfully, but like,
right,
at each other, which gets into the whole so competitive. He gets mad if he loses at checkers. It's like it's it's great.
It's June, so we're talking about this. We're talking about Cam Ward losing in ping pong and smashing his paddle. But the thing I did like from that was the tweet that came out. You saw all of the teammates from across the board were kind of enjoying it. Like I saw Jarvis Brownlee Jr. tweeted about it. I think Bryce Oliver tweeted about it. So it does seem like Cam Ward has done a nice job of, and maybe it's the leadership teams, maybe it's just Cam Ward's personality in general. It feels like he has already established himself as a guy that people gravitate towards to in a very short time.
I totally agree with that. And that is good. But we do have some concerns also, which is good to see. Some ups and downs, pluses and minuses for fans. We'll get to some of your reaction on Cam Ward next. Robby and Rexrode 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Welcome back in. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. I'd like to remind you to tune in to Totally Hits 93.3 tomorrow as the Nashville Cats take on the Corpus Christi Tritons in Clarksville, the F&M Bank Arena. Led Zeppelin. Pregame starts 4:30. No, that's not Led Zeppelin. It's Styx. What am I talking about? Pregame starts at 4:30 p.m. Kickoffs at 5 with coverage also available on the Totally Hits 93.3 app and at TotallyHitsNashville.com. I should absolutely have my classic rock card revoked for calling Styx riff Led Zeppelin. My goodness, I'm sorry, Jimmy Page. Not that I have any problem with Styx.
This is a Pittsburgh staple.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Tommy Shaw, he can rock it on the guitar too. All right, so we're talking Cam Ward, and I am very interested to actually hear what Jared has to say. I'm a little confused by it. Like, apparently you're not allowed to have confidence, so we will sort that out with Jared. But apparently it was based on this comment, and this is from a Jill Jelnick tweet, by the way. This comment, when first of all, Cam was initially asked, what's your confidence level? He said 10, and then it goes from there. So here's Cam Ward on that.
What would you say your confidence level is before this break heading into training camp?
10.
You ever at a 4 or 5 or 6, and when did you get to 10?
Nah, I'll probably never get that low, even if I, throw a 4-book game this year. At the end of the day, I'm a gunslinger. I live by that. I always die by it. So Coach Callahan knows what type of guy he has in the quarterback room and me. And so, I'm just thankful that I got guys around me to help me out, along with B.A., Bradley, and Brandon and Will. The team in there, they help me out a lot, just getting me right with the protections. Then also the receiving core, they're going to be able to, compliment my game a lot.
So confidence at a time. I mean, I don't know. I like.
What do you want him to say?
Yeah, like you gotta find me the clip of someone saying, "Yeah, I'm about a 4.5 right now." Maybe I can get to a 7. I mean,
7's probably my ceiling.
Yeah. Again, it's like the generic. What is your confidence level? Now, again, if you want to get more specific, what's your confidence level? Like, in calling protections or whatever, or reading coverages, or right now that you could start. I mean, you could ask things like that, and a lot of guys would still say 10. Oh, right. Yep, sure. It's so high. I mean, it's whatever. It's what you expect here. The thing about that comment that I thought was like a little bit of like was the whole gunslinger thing. I'm going to live by it. I'm going to always die by it. Like, well, don't die by it too much. And I like the 4-book game. I've never heard it that.
I hadn't either.
So a 4-pick game is a 4-book game.
I would make the
4 books.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's got to be what he's talking about. So yeah, like if you have 4-book games, I mean, that's not good. So
maybe he's following the footsteps of Jameis Winston as the number 1 pick, and Jameis seems to never lose any confidence. So I understand the issue with the gunslinger thing, because it's very rare that you find a guy who's just gonna rip it every single time, who isn't going to throw 15 to 20 interceptions per season. But what do you want him to say, I think, is the question. Like, if he had said 7, I think Jared probably still would have been ripping him and saying, if you're going to be a quarterback in the NFL and your confidence is anything lower than a 10, then you're not ready to hit the field. So it's like,
that's an interesting point.
It's like a double-edged sword. Yeah, I kind of do want to ask Jared, like, what would you have said if he was like, I'm a 6 today, but hoping to be by the end of training camp, hope to be like a 7 or an 8. I don't think that would have gone over well either.
Yeah, I mean, confidence is, I understand that, like, you put in work to earn confidence. There's some, like achievement that obviously helps you earn confidence, but also like you still have to have there. I mean, everybody at some point is on the ground floor of something or starting out something, right? I mean, it's good to have confidence, not overconfidence. But I don't know. If you're going to be asked that question, I think you're almost always, if someone's asked that question in his situation, I feel like that's always going to be the response. Jared from Spring Hill on the text line, driven by WilsonConline.com, says, I'd still like to see a sense of urgency. We all know 7-on-7 isn't real, but if you're still doing stupid bleep in, quote, not real football, then when will you learn? And he also said all that toxic positivity is just inflating Ward's perception of himself. I don't know if that's like a joke or not, but yeah, I don't, again, it's also like, if you do throw picks in minicamp, I mean, you don't need to fall on the sword for that, to me,
Yeah, again, it's still June. And Toxic positivity. I think last year you maybe could have used that phrase to describe what was going on with the Titans, because I think if you looked at the roster last year, there was no reason to say that that team was going to be a contender. But that was kind of the vibes that were coming out of that building, is that they were going to go win the AFC South. This year, you picked a quarterback number 1 overall. There should be a high level of positivity about that player in June before he's thrown his first NFL interception. I think there should be a pretty high level of positivity around the guy that you just turned down multiple first-round picks for to take number 1 overall, and the first number 1 overall quarterback ever taken by the Tennessee Titans. There should be a high level of positivity. If there isn't, I think that would be more of a concern.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, it's just the league. It's football. I mean, you have these long off seasons. You have these things that don't really amount to much except for, the little drips and drabs of practice and things like that. And it's just like, there's just naturally going to be too much optimism in almost every market because most teams aren't going to live up to it's just how it is.
Everybody
so you
has
can talk
a chance.
yourself into, And this league is built for everybody to go 9-8 or 8-9 anyway. So, I mean, you can talk yourself into a lot of things, but sure. I mean, obviously Titans fans really want this to finally work out, and it might. I don't know. I don't know why confidence is a bad thing. David Arkansas says Jared was trying to compare Ward saying he has a confidence level of 10 to Jared saying he has a 4.0 GPA. He was absurd yesterday. I don't understand that. A 4.0 GPA is something tangible that you
that's an achievement.
So if you're lying about that, then okay, then you shouldn't lie. That did you or did you not? There's actually a number applied to that. I mean, a 10 confidence level. It's a cliche,
right? It's such just an arbitrary question to ask. Like, scale 1 to 10, what's your confidence? I'd like for the quarterback to say 10, even if he's not feeling that way, because again, I think people would have had worse reactions if he said 6 or 7. And I think there is a difference. Confidence can have multiple definitions. It could be just the belief in yourself and your natural abilities, which I think Cam Ward does have a 10 in terms of belief in himself.
Yeah, most people don't get to the NFL if it's not pretty high, even, before they did all the things to get to the NFL, right?
I think confidence is almost it's a necessity if you're going to make it to the NFL, because if you don't believe that you can do it, you're probably not going to be able to do it. But I think there's also a confidence that comes in repeating what he's going to do this season, of like going through a game plan and playing in NFL defense. There is more confidence that he can build on that. But in terms of just a natural belief in himself, I think the quarterback has to be at a 10, or else he's going to take sacks because he's not confident in his ability to make every throw.
Yeah. This texter said, I think Jared was on the Bill Belichick thing for reading his book, saying confidence comes from repetition. Maybe it isn't a bad thing. He's lower on confidence. His repetition with the new team is low. He's just being honest. Yeah, I think you laid it out well there. It's like, there's some things where you do have to put in the work, and it's like, I mean, even for a lot of coaches will say, you can be jacked up for a game on a Sunday, but what was your preparation?
Yeah,
that's what matters. Yeah, great. You're emotional and ready to go on Sunday, but did you put in the work all week to be prepared? Andrew says, Jared says confidence can only come from having done something. Warren hasn't played an NFL game, so he can only be opportunistic. Typical Jared trying to – I don't know. This is semantics and
I think it's
word definition stuff that
you're 100% right that confidence alone is not going to get you anywhere in the NFL. Just having a belief that you can be successful isn't going to make you successful. You have to do all of the other things that come with that. But I think it is a necessary ingredient if you're going to be an NFL quarterback to just believe in what you can do. And, if there is a tight window that you have to throw it into, you've got to be on time and rip it, instead of maybe the slight moment of hesitation that could end up leading to an interception, which we've seen with quarterbacks in the past.
Yeah. And, look, again, the confidence, I think that Cam Ward, when it comes to that word, he does need to be at times, I think, less confident in some throws that he thinks he can make. And I think, you may learn that the hard way, but if you do have games like that, a 4-book game, you hope that you you adjust. So you definitely need to adjust. Just being a gunslinger, there are very few guys who have been able to. I mean, Jameis Winston is tremendously talented. That's why he's still in the league.
Right.
But he's not a starter because
he can't stop giving the ball away.
Brett Favre is a classic example of the guy who threw horrific picks his whole career, but he still overcame it. He still did way more good than bad. Robby and Rexrode, sponsored by First Horizon. Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. We come back. More on Cam Ward and your reaction. Also, there is one thing the Titans are doing that I find incredibly cheesy. We'll get to that. 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, Air Conditioning, Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Jake Lyman in for Robbie Stanley today. Connor Newt in for Ian, and we're talking Titans. We have Jared Stillman, who can explain his definition of the word confidence at the top of the hour, and we've really gone deep on that. As Joel says in the text line, the problem is still he has a 4-hour show every day and has to manufacture long rants on minor topics. I think there may be some truth to that. But yeah, I did hear the Belichick thing he played, which I thought was interesting. Bill Belichick reading, like the audiobook element with Bill Belichick.
Right, yeah.
Is somehow he's even more of a robot doing that than like in real life when he's talking. It's just
It might be perfect to put you to sleep, though. Just
that's
the dulcet
true.
tones of Bill Belichick.
Yeah, it's definitely an insomnia cure, but again, it's like you said, it's how you want to define it. But I mean, Cam Ward, I do think more people would react to Cam Ward talking about low confidence than they are just saying, what's your confidence level? 10 out of 10. Great. Have a good day. Like, here, let's go through all the cliches. Just want to be there for the team and
put my best foot forward. And
yeah, exactly. So, I think, again, the thing with him will be on the field, risk taking. And of course, accuracy. I think the underrated thing about Will Levis and why he's a backup is because Will Levis missed too many gimmies. It's like this week that, like the pass that sailed and just a dump down to the back and it goes 5 yards over his head. I know that he worked hard on his mechanics and said this week that he thinks that he's got that improved, which is good. He needs to do that. I'm not giving up on Will Levis ever having a chance in this league, but the risk taking and the not getting it in there, not hitting the strike zone at a high enough level. And I'm not sure, with Cam Ward, I love the different arm angles and things like that, but that's as big as anything. There are guys in this league who start at quarterback who don't have anywhere near the talent of guys who don't. And just because they get the ball out on time and in the right spot, Kirk Cousins is to me, the prevailing example of a guy who doesn't have the talent to be an NFL starter, but those things are there. So,
right. Brock Purdy would be another example. Honestly, you could throw Tom Brady in the category of not nearly as talented as pretty much any other of the great quarterbacks of his generation. Peyton Manning was more talented. I think Drew Brees was more talented, but he made the right decision every single time and knew exactly what he needed to do on every play. Yeah. And that is the more important side of playing quarterback rather than arm talent.
Yeah. The pre-snap cat and mouse game, knowing exactly what you're seeing, knowing what you having a plan and then getting it out accurately and on time. I mean, that's why, Tom Brady went 199 because of what you just said. He wasn't nearly as talented as a lot of these guys. So a couple of things that happened yesterday. Bryce Oliver has 3 touchdowns. We have not talked much about Bryce Oliver in the receiver room. There are much more interesting players in the receiver room for people. And I'm guilty of talking about Xavier Restrepo all the time.
Yeah.
A guy who's, a fringe player in this receiver room. But Bryce Oliver, worth mentioning that he, that he is around and he's a threat to be on this team. What about you? We should put you down, Jake. Are you Restrepo making the team or not making the team?
I would lean that he makes the team now. I think after this week, I think it was 2 weeks ago I said I lean no. I think I'm now starting to lean yes, but they might have to keep 7 to keep him on the team. Like, because you're going to keep all of your veterans, I think. Ridley, obviously, Lockett, Van Jefferson. You're keeping your 4th-round picks, DK, Iamaner. That's 5. And then Bryce Oliver, I don't know how you cut him because he has shown on an NFL field that he can make plays, which Xavier Restrepo hasn't quite shown yet. If Restrepo has a massive training camp, he may force their hand and force them to cut Bryce Oliver if they only keep 6.
Yeah. And, some of it is like, okay, who, when you expose this guy, who's more likely to get snatched up on waivers as opposed to.
That's also a good point.
So maybe, yeah, I mean, I think if Restrepo has a huge camp, then one, that probably earns his way on the team anyway, but also then you do probably worry if you're the Titans about somebody being interested out there.
Yeah. And returner, I think, is also a part of this too, with like a guy like James Prochet. If he is your punt returner, does he steal somebody's roster spot? And at that point, if you're keeping James Prochet only to be the punt returner, that means that Restrepo or Oliver, whoever gets cut, didn't have a good enough camp to make the team anyway. But I think I'd lean towards him making the team. I think they will keep 7. And I think Oliver and Restrepo both make the team. Obviously, it's still just June. We'll find out a lot more in July and August as we lead up to cutting down to 53. But I think at this moment, I would say yes on Restrepo making the team.
Okay. Yep, I'm there too. But again, like there are people who I think actually think he's going to be like a rookie of the year candidate. We need to pump the brakes on
temper the expectations a little bit. Like honestly, I don't even know how much he would see the field if he makes the team. Like I think he would play, but it's not like he's going to be out there for 60 to 70% of the snaps. I think he'd be more like 15 to 25% of the snaps.
Yeah, I mean,
If he's your 6th or 7th receiver, he's probably not out there very much.
Right. Like a guy like, if DK doesn't carve out a regular role, and maybe he does, but if he doesn't, he's a guy that you mix in as a vertical threat or
Right.
something like that. Restrepo
Khalif
to me
Raymond.
is, yeah. Taywan Taylor. I mean,
Yeah.
Restrepo is, to me, he's a backup in the slot.
Yes, I agree. I think he will be your second slot receiver if he makes the team. So you never know. Maybe an injury leads to him getting on the field more often, and maybe he does have a huge year. But rookie of the year, I think, is a stretch. I would venture to say if Restrepo is on the team the entire season, he probably ends the year with 300 receiving yards and a couple of touchdowns or something like that.
That'd be a very good outcome to me.
For an undrafted free agent, for sure.
Yeah. So I gotta say, football coaches just love like acronyms. We've already been ripping the new NCAA, the new college football acronym, the CSC. Get ready for the College Sports Commission as it judges all of your NIL deals, which I'm sure that'll go well. We'll get into some of that later too, by the way. But so this Brian Callahan thing, the SIN. Did you see this?
I did not actually see this.
SIN. Okay, they're self-inflicted negatives, but so like the transcript of this is like the sins that we can control, and it's spelled out capital S period, capital I period, capital N period. We got to stop this stuff. Football coaches, can we stop this stuff? And some football coaches more than others like to get into these little catchphrases and these little acronyms and goofy stuff. We just take it easy on that stuff.
Everybody does it though. Like I know we were just talking Virginia Tech football. WIN, what's important now? They do that every single year. It's like all these coaches, they love the acronym when they can come up with something kind of catchy that plays into it. Self-inflicted negative. It's a sin, makes it nice and easy. But yeah, it feels a little cheesy to be saying, "Oh, Cam, that throw across the middle, that's a sin."
SIN, Cam. Yeah, it's like some of these, like, okay, Derek Mason, friend of the show, Derek Mason, Middle Tennessee, RTI. Make sure I have it right. Relentless, tough, and intelligent. I believe that's right. Relentless, tough. Okay, RTI. So that's fine. I guess it's like, to me, it's if you come up with those, you do it because you want players to remember stuff,
right?
But like SIN, it's just cheesy. This does not have any value. I don't see how this helps you with the players. Hey, that's a SIN. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying that RTI helps you either, but at least it's like, this is how I want to play. I want to be relentless, tough, and intelligent. Vrabel did this stuff too. I forget what Vrabel had goofy, and Vrabel always had to have a catchphrase for every year. Like, this is the chase or the journey or the dream.
They always do that. Yeah. I know Vandy. I like what Vandy football does is it's just team 4 this year. Like that's what or team 5 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
At least it's not just,
Now you're getting into Butch Jones. See, Butch Jones did team whatever for Tennessee, which was a total ripoff of Michigan. Michigan's been doing that forever.
Right, for sure.
Team 133 or whatever. Yeah, so is that what Clark does team, but it's just of his era?
Of his era, yeah. But yeah, Butch Jones said that that his first 2 years didn't count at Arkansas State or something like that.
Is that what he said?
Yeah, I remember seeing a clip about that. He said his first 2 years didn't count, so you can't fire him.
It's a champion of life right there, though.
Yeah, he is a champion of life.
COL. Yeah, COL. Butch Jones.
I need to know, are the Titans, are they going to have confessionals for their sins? Like, forgive me, Callie, for I have sinned.
No, there you go.
Are we going to get into that throughout the season?
Every Wednesday at 3:00, go in and talk to Callie and confess your SINs. Someone texted ELE. I don't know what that means.
Yeah. If you're going to send us these acronyms, we need an explanation.
Explain it, please. Yeah. All right. When we come back, we're going to have our resident GNS, genius. That was dumb. Jared Stillman. We're going to talk confidence and Cam Ward with Jared and other things on Robby and Rexrode 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Second hour Friday edition, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, broadcasting for the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service. Robby and Rexrode, sponsored by First Horizon. Big bank muscle, small bank hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/getitall. Jake Lyman in today for Robby. And as always, on Friday at 7 a.m., we welcome in our friend. We need to come up with the correct acronym for Jared Stillmans. Okay, someone on the text line. It has to be something to do with genius, Jared. Let's see. How about GDJ, Genius du Jour for Jared? How about that? How about that, Jared? You like that one?
All I know is that I just Jake Lyman's got the blue Kool-Aid on his tongue because all I'm listening to, I feel like I'm listening to Titans Twitter this morning. You know? Oh my goodness. Restrepo's gonna make the team. Cam's the best. He's so confident though. You can't make it to the NFL without being confident. I mean, it's wow, Jake, man.
Jake's being too much of a slappy.
Am I being too much of a homer?
Put the pants back on, buddy. Like
it always goes there. Jared always somehow takes it to pants being down.
I mean, I'm just saying, goodness gracious.
Well, you said the word confident, so yeah, I did hear what you were saying. I was somewhat puzzled, which isn't all that uncommon, but you're saying that Cam Ward can't be confident. Is that right? You can't have confidence.
Cam Ward can be optimistic. He can be hopeful. He can be positive.
Okay.
He can be excited. But I don't know how you can be confident in doing something, especially as difficult as being quarterback in the NFL, being a good quarterback in the NFL, when you've never experienced any success having done it before. Now, if someone has never done a task before, they have no personal evidence or track record to support the belief in that successful outcome. So at that point, to me, it's all hope and optimism and all words. And it's crazy because I was listening to the beginning of the show today, and I was listening to people be like, Cam's a winner. And I'm like, so was Vince Young. In fact, Vince Young was a much better winner than Cam Ward. Vince Young won the national championship almost single-handedly against a dynastic USC team. And yet, life was pretty hard for him. He even had success in the NFL. He was Rookie of the Year. And a couple years in, because this league will humble you, Jeff Fisher is sending Dowell Loggins to Vince Young's home because Vince Young's mom, after a bad game against the Jags, is afraid that Vince might hurt himself. I mean, I feel like for the second year in a row, there's this gassed up hope at quarterback, and it almost feels like the quarterback has now taken some of that again for the second year in a row, in which I'm sitting here saying, you do realize how hard it is to be good at quarterback in the NFL, right? Like you do realize this. So I just think that without evidence, without a track record of success, or without having experienced that success, confidence in the result is not based on reality. It's just based on Cam's assumption or Cam's imagination or Cam's ego. And that's just not realistic.
I mean, obviously we're into semantics here, but so it sounds like you're talking about certainty of results. That to me is not just being confident in yourself. And also, again, let's not
Isn't that what confidence is?
No, I don't think so.
Certainty that you can get the job done?
No, confidence is just you have confidence,
belief in yourself.
Yeah, you believe in yourself. I mean, first of all, it's not like he's just coming into the NFL. Now, here's a football, Cam. Now let's try to play quarterback. I mean, he has had success leading up to how you get yourself to be picked number 1 in the draft, right? Like if he said,
he
like
had
this is
moderate success in the ACC.
Okay, but
he did not win the Heisman Trophy. He did not win the national championship. He did not win the ACC. He did not get to the college football playoff. He did not beat Georgia Tech.
So no one can be confident unless they are like one of one and they do all the things. You have to be a Heisman winning national champion to have confidence. This is what you're saying.
I don't think any rookie quarterback can come into the NFL and be completely.
So if he was asked, so if he was asked this question,
there's not some fear in their mind that, hey, what if I'm not cut out to do this?
Okay, so
I've seen quarterbacks that have had success in the NFL lose their confidence.
Sure.
Cam hasn't even had any success in the NFL. Cam barely had success in college. What are we talking about?
So what if he had low confidence right now?
Yeah, what if he said 7? yesterday.
If he was asked about his confidence?
Yeah, if he said, "What?" If they asked scale 1 to 10, what's your confidence level? If he said 7, wouldn't that be a red flag also?
It'd be a fake outrage segment from Jared about how his confidence is too low.
The red flag for me was, and I'm not going to say this was a red flag. Again, I just think it's impossible to believe that he has a 10 out of 10 confidence. But I think the thing is that that's a very easy to answer question, because a lot of people are like, what do you expect him to say, Jared? And I'm like,
yeah.
You know, again, most quarterbacks that are, you know, used to answering questions, and I would assume that Cam is used to answering questions at this point. Most quarterbacks would say something along the lines of, well, look, I'm just really excited to get out here to start training camp. You know, now we've got mini camp in the books, and I'm just really excited to start training camp and, you know, continue the work and the process that we've blah, 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 blah. You think Marcus would have said he was 10 out of 10? Marcus wouldn't have said he was 7 out of 10.
I don't think Marcus was a 10 out of 10.
Oh, Marcus had a lot more success than Cam Ward did in college.
I think one of Marcus's main flaws was that he didn't have confidence, especially towards the end.
You want to know why Marcus didn't have confidence, especially towards the end, Jake?
Well, his offensive line was a large issue.
Because he got his ass kicked, especially as a rookie. And he broke his leg his second year in the league. And he got hurt again with the elbow. And so Mariota, this is what I'm saying when it comes to this league's going to humble you. And I am getting the impression from Cam Ward that he thinks this is going to be easier than it is. Like, look at the guy sitting next to you. This time last year, the same people that are gassing you up were gassing him up. The same confidence, the same, oh, he can do it, he's our guy. That was him. And look at him now, holding a press conference yesterday saying, yeah, those 20 weeks last year, that wasn't me. My mind wasn't in the right place, which, again, I think is incredibly fascinating and odd to go dive into. This time last year, Brian Callahan was giving podcast interviews saying that Will Levis was the reason he took the job and that he's everything that you want in a starting quarterback. Before the Bears game, Terry McCormick asked Brian Callahan, how do you know Levis is ready for this moment? And he said, oh, he's ready. And now I saw him throw an interception in the Seahawk game, or the Seahawk practice, where I was like, let's get back out there. Let's get some good results. But Callahan didn't think that he needed that. And so, again, I think for the second year in a row, these fans, and it seems like the player himself thinks this is going to be a lot easier than it actually is. This is a hard league. This is a humbling league.
Well, I agree with that.
I
agree with your assessment of the league. And look, again, I mean, if he's actually lives up to his pick, it'll be the first time in franchise history. It's a rarity. It's more likely than not he's going to fail. I just don't see how.
Well, that's not true. It's not the first time. McNair lived up to the hype. McNair was an MVP.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Okay. That's fair. But I'm thinking about since they've been in Tennessee with the top QB picks. That's fine. Titans history. Let's go with that. Because McNair was obviously technically an Oilers pick. But the point being, Jared, all those things are true. But a throwaway answer on what your confidence level is. I don't see how you're bridging that to, he thinks this is going to be easy. He is confident. He's cocky. He's got great swagger, and the gunslinger thing can work to a point. We'll see if it goes too far, it's not going to work out for him. But I don't understand how confidence is a bad thing or a thing that, like, you compared it to you having a 4.0 GPA. That's a tangible lie, right?
Well,
you can have confidence.
I have no idea. Now, I didn't have a 4.0 GPA, but I have no idea what my GPA was. But again, But
it wasn't a 4.0.
But I think Cam's saying that he's got 10 out of 10 confidence. Again, to your point, it's not a tangible lie, but it's a lie. You're telling me there's no doubt in his mind that he is completely unaware of how many number 1 overall picks fail. And he hasn't thought about that at all. Doesn't think, hey, my coach is on the hot seat. He might not even be a very good coach. This organization ruins quarterbacks. What if they ruin me? You're telling me that there's not one iota of doubt in the back of his mind right now.
I don't know. But again, I don't think that, who asked it? Was it Jelnick? Jill asked a question? Yeah. Is it like, let me break down all of my anxieties for you here. I mean, come on.
Again, there's a very easy way to address that question without sounding arrogant. I mean, I hear Cam Ward
I don't think anybody but you took arrogance out of his answer.
When you say I can throw a 4 interception game and I'll still be confident, that tells me that you're arrogant. That is arrogance. I throw a 4 interception game. I mean, I'm thinking about it like this. I'm thinking about week 1 at Denver. I'm thinking about the fact that Cam Ward's offensive line has never played together ever. We don't even know when the starting center is going to be playing for the Tennessee Titans. It may not even be by that week. It may be the week before that. So Cam Ward's going to go to Denver, one of the 2 toughest places to play in the entire NFL, with Denver and Seattle being the 2. At altitude, having never played in an NFL game before, against a team that had the most sacks in the NFL, has the top defensive player in the league on it, and he's going to sit there and say, hey, I'd throw 4 interceptions and I'll still be confident. Go throw 4 interceptions at Denver, and then you tell me, when people are booing and people are panicking and you're seeing it on social media, and then you tell me, because I watched the Titans have a confident quarterback who knew he was ready, who made one mistake in the first game last year, and poof, it was gone. It's bull crap. That's arrogant to say I could throw 4 interceptions and I'd still be confident. It's ridiculous.
Can you come back for another segment of fake outrage? I have to respond to this.
I actually can't.
Okay, how much longer can you say? You have to go right this second? After saying all that dumb stuff, you have to go right now?
I'm on the radio for 7 hours today, and we got an infant, so.
Well, Jared, quickly, I just want to ask, do you think there's a difference in the quote-unquote toxic positivity this year than last year? Because last year, I agree with you. I think Will Levis was overhyped not only by media and fans, but also the team overhyped him. But this is the first overall quarterback in this franchise's history, and you turn down King's ransom of an offer to take him. I think they have to be positive about him, and he kind of has to be positive about himself at this point in the offseason. When he starts taking lumps, if he still says his confidence is a 10 and he still believes that even if he throws 4 picks every week, it's not an issue. But I think there is a difference this year than last year.
Well, Jake, I think the word you used was great. You have to be positive. Positive and confidence are not the same thing. Confidence is developed. It is real. You can't just be confident. You could be positive. Like, I can be positive right now saying, hey, they won 3 games last year. Nowhere to go but up. Positive. You can do that. That's what they're doing. Now, the toxic positivity, I think that's been dialed back. And I think it's been dialed back because you have not heard Brinker or Borgonzi really get in there and try to gas people up about how great things are in the building and how great the vibes are and how great the team is. And I just get a sentiment, and I said this, I opened with this yesterday. I get the sense that the Titans at the top, the front office, the ownership, all of that, they know they're not going to be very good this year. And I don't think, if gaslit people the way that Rand Carthon would check every box, in the offseason. So I think that's different. Now, Callahan, I'm a little worried. I don't think Callahan's changed from last year. And I don't think that coach we saw last year can survive in the NFL. And I think between he and Denard Wilson, I think we got 2 people with their heads shoved up their ass. Nice guys, but I'd like to see better coaches. But again, at the high rungs of the organization, I don't think there's this, again, checked every box mentality. So I'll give them that. It doesn't feel as toxically positive as before, though. Callahan thinking that playing these tug-of-war games is going to be what keeps the team from lining up incorrectly in the fall is a little over the top.
See, Jared talks about his fathering duties, and he talks for 8 straight minutes. I knew you had more time, Jared. Well, thank you, Jared. We will react to your interesting analysis of the English language when we come back. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
I'll probably never get that low, even if I, throw a 4-book game this year. At the end of the day.
Tune in to ESPN 94.9 The Fan today as Nashville Sounds take on Norfolk. Pregame begins at 5:20 p.m. First pitch, 5:35. Max Hers on the call. Coverage also available on the Game Nashville app at GameNashville.com. Sounds baseball on ESPN 94.9 The Fan, presented by Twin Peaks and Family Leisure. And this is Robby and Rexrode, which is sponsored by First Horizon. Big bank, muscle, small bank, hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. Joe Rexrode, Jake Lyman here. Talking Titans Cam Ward. The text line, typically, we have Jared on a Friday at 7, and there's a little bit of, there's some people who don't like Jared. It's especially angry today, I would say. I would say it's especially angry and especially not accepting of Jared's take. Ron says, Joe, what's up with Jared? Never know positivity. That's a double negative, Ron. Has he ever studied for a test that he's never taken before and feel confident he's going to pass the test? Yeah, again, first of all, some of this, it really is like, it's just semantics. But I feel like he's replacing, he's defining confidence, something that I don't.
It's like certainty of result. That was a great way you put it, is that basically he thinks that by Cam Ward saying he's confident, that Cam Ward is saying he knows he will be a successful NFL quarterback.
I know I will go 17-0 and win Rookie of the Year and MVP this year.
Right. I think it's different knowing you're going to be a successful NFL quarterback and believing you're going to be a successful NFL quarterback. I don't think Cam Ward's saying that he 100% knows that everything's going to go perfectly for him.
Right. Again, as he said, even if I have a 4-book game, I'm going to keep that confidence. Now, that's where you get into, okay, but maybe
let's avoid those.
Yeah, like maybe you should have less confidence in this particular throw, right? Or something like that.
Right.
But, yeah, I don't think you have a chance to be a successful pro athlete if your confidence isn't 10 of 10. Again, we're defining it differently, but, your confidence better be that high. And he has confidence because he has worked his way from especially with him, non-prospect, incarnate word, Washington State, Miami, number 1 overall pick. He's put in work. The results here are not just by happen chance, okay? I mean, he has actually put in work.
Yeah, he's not an entitled, I don't want to specifically call out one guy, but I think Spencer Rattler might be the opposite end of the spectrum here, of a guy who was 5-star quarterback coming out of high school, had a TV show when he was 16 or 17 years old, and maybe didn't put in all the work, and his confidence that he had in himself didn't carry him. Cam Ward has confidence because he was overlooked and has had to work his way up the ladder one step at a time, and he's had success everywhere he's gone. Again, I'm not saying that's going to immediately translate to him being Patrick Mahomes.
No, he could be a disaster. He could.
For sure. He could go out there and he could flame out in 1 year. It's fully possible. We've seen it before
all the time.
But I don't think it's going to be because of his confidence.
Right. If he's delusional, then okay, then that's one thing, if he's Uncle Rico and he can throw it over those mountains, then okay, then we have an issue. But yeah, confidence on its own is a necessary element, I would say. However, again, this isn't just Stilly totally making up a fake outrage segment. I guess this is rooted in Bill Belichick and his audio book, which apparently Bill Belichick in this book, by the way, never even mentioned Robert Kraft's name, which is actually really quite pathetic. But anyway, let's listen to Bill Belichick on confidence.
Confidence is an epiphenomenon. It doesn't exist in a vacuum or independently of everything else. It's relational. And yet these days, confidence has become a product people think they can pick up off a shelf. I've heard it all over the years. Confidence at work, confidence in dating, confidence in everything. Come on down and pick up your confidence. No strings attached. Here's the truth. You cannot buy confidence. You cannot learn it. You cannot teach it. And you sure as hell won't get it from reading or listening to this chapter or this book. As far as I'm concerned, confidence isn't even something to strive for. It's something that you exhibit when you strive for something in the right way. But that's not very selling, so my publisher would probably prefer me to put it this way. I can't force you to be confident, but I can help you understand where it comes from.
Your thoughts, Jake Lyman? I almost nodded off.
I mean, was that AI or is that actually Bill Belichick reading?
That is Bill Belichick sitting by the fire and reading you a story.
There's no chance that wasn't AI because Bill Belichick, it has to be AI because there was just no emotion in anything. And he apparently wrote those words, right? Like you would think there would be some kind of ebb and flow with it.
I don't know, man.
So funny. Honestly, I don't know if that clip even really supports what Jerry was saying all that much. He was basically saying that confidence is inherent. Like some people have it, some people don't. You can't learn it, and Bill can't teach it to you. Again, as we've said, I think there's a difference in confidence in yourself and confidence in your protections or confidence in a certain play in the playbook. But when you ask Cam Ward, what's his confidence in himself, he should say 10.
Yeah. I'm confident we're going to get away from Jared's interesting definition of English words. Coming up next, we're going to talk about Zakai Zeigler denied and what does it mean at Tennessee 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robby and Rexrode. This week's Nashville's Best Deal is Staley's Chicago Italian Dining, one of Nashville's best-kept secrets and winners of numerous Best of awards. Enjoy authentic Italian beef sandwiches, Vienna Chicago dogs, and the best gyros south of Chicago. Get half off a $20 gift card now while supplies last at theGameNashville.com/deals. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode 102.5-106 for the game. Jake Lyman in for Robby. So Zakai Zeigler yesterday, Jake denied an injunction which would have given him a 5th year, which, of course, people in this state may look and say, wait a minute, Diego Pavia got an injunction. Diego Pavia is back as Vanderbilt's quarterback next year. Why the heck is Zakai Zeigler not back as Tennessee's point guard next year? The quick and easy answer is when there are extenuating circumstances for Pavia, it was JUCO years counting, which shouldn't. I think it makes sense. There have been other cases where another year has been awarded, for lack of a better term, because of something like that. With Zeigler, the argument was simply basically that everyone should be allowed 5 years, which I do think at some point we may get to 5 years of eligibility, but we're not there, and the judge did not agree that there was a compelling case for basically the 4-year rule to be to not be fair, I guess. So Zakai Zeigler is done playing college basketball.
Right. I think eventually we get to the point where they do give you 5 to play 4 or whatever it is. You get 5 years. If you stay healthy and you don't redshirt, you could play all 5, but you're not getting any extra tacked onto that. But in this circumstance, I think people, and I don't want to specifically call out just Vol fans, but they have had the 2 other highest profile cases when trying to get an injunction to gain eligibility with Zeigler and Alberto Ozuna on the baseball team. Neither of them had JUCO years. Ozuna did, but Ozuna had already eclipsed his eligibility, which basically means like they pulled him out of retirement in a way. Whereas what's to stop you if Alberto Ozuna has eligibility remaining? What's to stop you from going to get a 30-year-old who played JUCO in 2011?
I've got eligibility.
Right. He had already left North Carolina and he had no eligibility left. Tennessee basically tried to pull him back out after he was out of eligibility.
Which is worth a shot, by the way.
Right.
It was totally worth a shot.
100% worth a shot. But that is why he was not granted eligibility. Diego Pavia was proactive, and basically from the moment he left JUCO was trying to fight for those years back. Yeah. And that's why he was able to get that. And they gave the waiver to all players who are currently eligible who had JUCO years to play this upcoming season. But that doesn't apply to somebody who already had eclipsed their eligibility, like an Alberto Ozuna. And then Zakai Zeigler, he played, 3.7 years of college basketball.
Right.
Like, you're not going to
get hurt as a sophomore.
You're not going to get a waiver for that.
Yeah. And look, first of all, there are going to continue to be court cases, but this is one of those things that had this been successful, you think about, the flood of athletes who would get another year. One thing that is sort of unfair about this is, you had the COVID years, right? So it's like, he's the first class after the COVID years. Yeah. The COVID, they got that extra year because of that. But at some point, it has to end. That's just, again, until and unless they actually change the eligibility rule. The lawyers, one of the things that lawyers argued was that the average time to get a degree is like 4.75 years. So if that's your guide for an average student, why would you not have then 5 years of play? And again, I think that may be a thing at some point
down the road. Yeah.
But it's not right now. Nate on the phone line, driven by WilsonGuyHanna.com, 615-737-102, wants to weigh in on Zakai. What's up, Nate?
What's up, guys? My thing is, and I haven't heard this from unfortunately, I'm not able to read the article because I'm not an athletic subscriber. I know, shame on me.
Darn you.
From what I have been understanding with these court cases, a lot of them come down to the phrase restricting earnings from the courts. What if Zakai Zeigler's camp had thrown that phrase in there? Do you think he would have been able to have a better case due to restricting earnings?
Thank you, Nate. Well, that's a good question, and they did. They definitely made. In fact, they were very explicit in first of all saying that the 5th year is often the most lucrative. There were examples given, but for him, they said that he made $500,000 last year. We've talked about this on the show previously. That number bothers me. I think he should have absolutely, given the market for players right now and what I hear other guys are getting, point guards are getting. I'm shocked that Zakai Zeigler didn't make more than $1 million last year. I think that's criminal. I mean, seriously, like in today's market for a program of that level with that fan base, that's astounding to me. But in the case, they said he made $500,000 last year and that he could make as much as $4 million this year. First of all, that sounds like a little bit of a leap, but the thing is, part of that is being on the open market.
Right.
So I believe that he would have played at Tennessee. I believe, like, I mean, I know that the Tennessee certainly would have loved to have had him back to lead the team for another year. They would have wanted him now, but he may have opened it up too, and which he should have. If he would have gotten the injunction, then that's what he should have done. Next is say, okay, well, let's open things up and let's get some bidding going.
Yeah,
because so I'm confident he would have made 7 figures this year. And that's the thing. It is all of this is restricting earnings, as Nate said. It's just the question of, I mean, you know, like there are still rules that in this case the judge found valid, the 4-year rule.
Right, which is why I think the NCAA, they do need to just make it much more black and white with their eligibility. But I mean, I mentioned the 5 years to play 4. I think that's the easiest way to do it, because it takes all of the, you know, well, he applied for a waiver here, injury red shirt. It's like, no, like you can have a regular red shirt and then you have 4 years to play. If you get injured, it sucks.
But some people want 5 years to play.
Right.
You know?
5 years, and you can play all 5 if you wish to. I think you get 5 years, but you're not going to get an injury red shirt to save it. If you get injured and miss a year, guess what? You still get your 4 years that you're supposed to get. If you get injured and miss 2 seasons, it's tough, but I feel like you're going to have a lot less court cases and a lot less players looking for waivers. Like I looked up DeAndre Williams at Memphis, who was playing college basketball 2 years ago, and he is older than Devin Booker.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Who is playing, I believe he's coming up on his 10th NBA season. So it's like, you don't need to have 7th and 8th year seniors anymore. I know COVID was a large reason for all that, but I think we need to end the era of the 26-year-old college senior.
Yeah. I do think that, you know, there certainly have been like 6-year seniors for a long, you go way back, well before any of this stuff because of severe injuries. And I'm okay with that still. I mean, I still think that, you know, if you have extenuating circumstances, I mean, I think it's hard. I think it's hard to sell anything that's, you know, that's considered like anti-player. You know what I mean? I mean,
right.
Especially to judges. But again, this was a thing. I mean, I talked to Mitt Winter, is one of the lawyers in college sports I talked to a fair amount. I quoted him in a story today, and he thought going into that case that it was 50-50. That and I was really surprised to hear that. Like, yeah. Really? You think it's 50-50? Like, yeah. And even now, you know, I quoted him saying basically like, yes, this is a win for the NCAA, but don't look at this like, oh, this is a precedent setter.
Right. It's not going to stop all of these challenges.
It's not. And a lot of them are going to, but this is just one thing where it's like, if you don't have any circumstance, then yeah, right now it's 4 years, man. And I think frankly, that's the right ruling. Texture says it was a Tennessee judge that denied him too. What a turncoat. Yeah, well, you know, you can't win them all. Tim on the phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHunter.com. What's up, Tim?
Hey guys, you're not going to believe this, but I kind of think, let me put this in preface. If you get and you get an NIL deal, you still get paid that money if you get a medical red shirt.
I mean, Nico Yamalava got paid his full $2 million for sitting around as a frosh.
I'm sure it depends on the contract. Okay. I would guess that they write that stuff in.
Yeah, well, okay. And my point was, Zakai only played 4 years. You get 5 to play 4. Then, to me, they cost him another year. I mean, I see where he could argue, red shirt, they got that year. So I'm not so sure he maybe shouldn't get a fifth year.
Well, that was part of the argument, and thank you for the call, Tim. That was part of the argument that, had he sat, then what would he be now as a player? And
right.
But I mean,
he
played, and he was really good, by the way, right away.
The texters are correcting me. I said 5 to play 4. That's already the rule. You have 5 years to play 4, but it would be 5 to play 5 is what I was trying to get across.
Yeah.
You get 5 years, no matter what happens. Play as many seasons as you can, but you're not getting a 6th, I guess, is what they're looking into making the rule.
Texter says, Nico who, Joe? Sorry. I'm sorry. Is this name taboo still? UCLA Bruin legend, Nico Yamaleava. When we come back, I want to talk more Tennessee and the Rex rant. 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Sometimes he wakes up on the wrong side of the bed. And sometimes he's just, well, Joe.
Awkward moment. Let's do it.
This is the Rex Rant, now on Robby and Rexrode.
On Brugler, he actually has him 4th. He has him as a second round grade and number 30 overall. I mean, I think that's got to be largely about the injury. You're talking about a microdiscectomy By the way, I didn't even realize this. He also has had a torn ACL in the past and sciatica symptoms from lifting weights that required a different surgery. So 2 surgeries plus an ACL.
What was that last word?
Sciatica. Sciatica, and I may be totally butchering that, symptoms from lifting weights.
You probably are.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh, it's sciatica. Oh, my God, I'm an idiot. It'll never die. Will it? No, it never will. Speaking of the English language and people who may lack a grasp on it. By the way, Jake, I actually went on some sports talk show in Virginia, just found that or whatever. Like it went viral enough that they were like, reach out, hey, will you come here and talk about your sciatica? Like, yeah, sure, why not? So there you go. Yeah, good times for me. We don't. Okay, I was gonna say we don't still have Tim. Okay, sorry, I'm also scatterbrained right now, and I'm looking at the text line with Adam in Portland pointing out, didn't John Fulkerson have an illustrious 17-year college career at Tennessee? He should be brought in as a consultant here. Very good, very good. So I want to keep this to Tennessee, and I'm actually going to point to a column from my friend and my former roommate in South Korea, Dan Wolken. You know, Dan Wolken, USA Today columnist, I've mentioned many times on this show. I should have thought of this today because Robby's not here. I've mentioned many times to Robby on and off the air, yeah, maybe we should have Wolken. I think Robby, he's not like classic Vol Twitter, you know, but he does every once in a while. Like he got mad at, I think it was Tim. Was Tim the same caller about Vanderbilt? I think that's right. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Same guy, right? And it went total GBO on that. And also, I think Robby has an issue with Dan Wolken, like a lot of Vol Twitter does. It's always like, yeah, we could maybe, but I don't know. But at some point, we'll have to have Wolken on. But he had a column that I thought is a great point, and I want to get your thoughts, Jake, on the bigger story, which of course is this College Sports Commission and this NIL Go system with Deloitte and everything. And the point Wolken makes here is, so you have all this stuff. You've got, again, Greg Sankey is out here saying everyone wants this. Everyone's holding each other accountable. Everyone's going to buy. I'm paraphrasing. But essentially, here's the quote from Sankey as my computer falls apart. He said, quote, this is Greg Sankey, quote, I've asked at every level, our university presidents and chancellors, our ADs, our head coaches, if you want an unregulated open system, just raise your hand and let me know. And universally, the answer is no. We want oversight. We want guardrails. We want structures. These individuals don't have the luxury to just say that in meeting rooms, period. They don't have the luxury to just be anonymous sources. They have a responsibility to make what they've sought, what they've asked for to make it work, end quote. That's Greg Sankey. Fine. You should feel that way, Greg Sankey. But also, what's reality? So the point that Wolken makes is, so all this happens. We have the settlement of the House case, and we're going to go to this Power 4 college sports. And immediately, Tennessee gets involved in this Zeigler injunction, and which again, this would be contrary to the things, the guardrails and the things that they're trying to set up. They immediately go in because, of course, he's their guy. They want to win.
We want guardrails for everybody else.
Exactly. We want guardrails, but if we have a key player, we want the rules to be changed to help us win.
Yep.
Again, it just happens to be Tennessee in this moment, but it is hilarious. And I thought it was a great idea for a column that, like, seconds after this is approved and everybody's talking about we want this, immediately we see a school acting in its own interest. That's what they're all going to do forever. And it's just amazing. It's not amazing that they're trying something, but it's just amazing that anybody really thinks this is going to work. And yet, Jake, there are people I've talked to at Vanderbilt who, I might even use the word confident, but I mean, I would definitely say semi-optimistic. They feel like this has a chance. And I'm like, okay, you know way more about it than I do. They've seen all the presentations and they've had all the discussions and they're all agreeing, yep, we want this. But then it's like, okay, so then let's get into the pursuit of players that can make your job or end your job if you lose them.
Right. I think, in principle, it feels like this is the right thing to do is, the universities, the athletic departments can pay these players directly. And, they have the different spreads for each of the sports, 75% to football, 15 to men's basketball, so on and so forth. And then everybody's allowed to get their own endorsements. Right. They said 90% of the NIL deals done through collectives would have been denied, and 75% of the external ones would have been approved, or whatever the numbers were. So that's basically what they're trying to go to is the universities are going to pay directly, and you can get whatever endorsements you want. That is NIL now. But you just know there's going to be the big schools are going to try and work around this, like the Alabamas and the Ohio States. They're going to want to spend more than the $15 million on football that they're being allotted. And I don't know if
Well, everybody will.
Well, everybody's going to
But
want to, but they're
yeah.
going to be the ones who
go way beyond.
Maybe we go back to McDonald's bags on doorsteps and stuff like that. So I don't know if it's going to work, but I do see the structure of it makes sense. You can pay them directly. They can go get their own endorsement deals, but we're not going to funnel money through a collective and then just spread it out willy-nilly however we feel, which has kind of been the way it's gone.
Well, and then it gets into, there's been a lot of talk right now about, you just broke it down, the sport, 75% of football, whatever, right? So, okay, that's fine. Different schools will do it. They can do whatever they want. Some schools will, if you give some money to volleyball, they have a great volleyball program or a hockey program or baseball, whatever. So, okay, but 75% football. So you have a Heisman level quarterback. Is he making the same as the left guard? Because that's another big thing, right? I mean, you have a few players on every roster, just like in the pros, who are difference makers, who were very difficult to bring to campus, and so should be paid a lot more. But is that what you're going to do? How are these coaches going to? Because again, if you're not going to do that, and if you're just going to be like, hey, you guys all get a nice lump sum of money, everybody's happy, all right. Well, I'm sorry, but if I'm the family or the agent, because they all have to have agents now, of the superstar quarterback, I'm like, no, I should be paid way more than everybody else in this team. And in some cases, you're absolutely right. How do you handle that?
Yeah, and if you split up, we're just going to say roughly 15 million, 75% of 20 million, which was about the number. If you split that up among 85 scholarship football players, everybody gets $175,000. Sounds pretty good to the third string safety who's a freshman on scholarship. That sounds great. But you're right. Carson Beck, who's getting $4 million at Miami, I don't think he's going to go out there and play for $175,000 a year.
And look, of course there will be a salary. Of course it won't be all the same. But how different is it? And how much is it at the very top?
Is your quarterback getting $5 million, your star running back or receiver getting $4 million, and then you're splitting $6 million among the rest of the roster, which brings that $175,000 down a lot more for some of maybe the lower end players on your team.
And look, I still totally buy into anybody who says most of the players on a football team should be happy with a scholarship room and board. I mean, seriously, especially if you're not contributing yet on the field. I mean,
for sure
you should earn your way into being able to have that money. But so a texter here says transfer portal is more of an issue than NIL. I don't give a rip who pays an athlete or how much they pay them. Well, I agree. Unfortunately, we're going to try this crap with the money and this isn't real NIL, all this stuff. Again, you get into collective bargaining and you get into more contractual slowing down of movement. And I think then you have less of this constant free agency, right? But I don't see how you get to that without the collective bargaining. And by the way, the congressional thing yesterday completely fell apart because it's a Republican-sponsored bill, and it takes away a lot of the stuff they've gained, and there's no collective bargaining. And the Democrats are like, how there's got to be collective bargaining. So, right now, it's been bipartisan on some things with college sports, but right now, this idea of how to deal with this is not bipartisan, which means it's not going to happen. So the congressional life raft at this point is, again, just a fantasy.
Yeah, I don't really see that happening anytime soon. I think you're right. I think eventually you need contracts with this stuff of, hey, star quarterback X, take Bryce Underwood at Michigan, for example. we're going to give you $5 million of our 15 allotted, but you're not allowed to transfer for 3 years or whatever. You have to play 3 years at Michigan. Maybe that's, I think that is probably the best way to go. So it isn't like a Nico situation where you agreed to a deal and he tries to back out of it and ask for more. And now he's in the portal again and Tennessee's looking for a starting quarterback. Like, I don't think we, as college sports, I don't think they can survive with just this unlimited movement from these players.
Right. All right. When we come back, we'll get into the Titans again. TD, Turron, Davenport, ESPN NFL Nation. Robby and Rex are 1025, 1063 the game.
ESPN's Turron Davenport, Talking Titans, now on Robby and Rexrode on ESPN 102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
It's that time of week here on Robby and Rexrode, sponsored by First Horizon. Big Bang Muscle, Small Big Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. And we are happy, as we are every Friday at 8, to welcome in our friend Ron Davenport, TD, ESPN NFL Nation. Just finished up a busy week of Titans minicamp. So first of all, TD, just prevailing takeaway, whatever it may be, big picture with the team, chemistry, culture, one player. You walk away from this week of spending with the Titans, and your number one thing on top of mind is what?
That's a good question. I would say number one thing on the top of the mind is it's got to be Cam Ward and the potential that he has. I think that's the prevailing thought. I mean, he showed flashes, but he definitely made it clear that there's a lot more progress that he needs to make. So it was a good experience and exposure getting to see that, and that's what it would be.
So I'm going to stick with that. I don't know if you've been blessed to hear Stilly's confidence take on Cam Ward, but but I do think that I think what fans want to know is like, okay, a year ago there was excitement about Will Levis. Will Levis had ups and downs. He had some good days in practice. He threw some picks, whatever. This happens for everybody. But there was a lot of confidence. There was a lot of confidence expressed in him from Brian Callahan. And, this is why I took the job. So, and I know that Levis wasn't a rookie a year ago, TD. But if you could compare maybe where Cam is now compared to where you thought Levis was a year ago.
I'll tell you one thing that shows a difference. Calvin Ridley. How consistently do you see Calvin Ridley catching deep passes? How rare is it any of us are saying, hey, they got to figure out a way to get the timing down on that? I think it starts right there, honestly. Cam Ward is a better quarterback. I don't think there's any getting around it. It's the truth. It's nothing towards Will Levis. It just is what it is.
And that is, you think about last year, that was well into training camp that we were talking about the Levis Ridley thing. And now, although Ridley did apparently tear him up on the ping pong table, but no, that's a really interesting point.
That's what I was going to get into with TD here. The ping pong video yesterday, I think, was kind of a good sign of how Cam Ward has been able to, relate to some of his teammates and created a bond with a lot of different guys around the team. How have you seen the teammates that he's been able to interact with over the last couple of weeks really start to adjust to Cam Ward and view him as a leader in that locker room?
Oh, I think it's pretty clear that they love his presence. And I mean, a good example yesterday, right? When Cody Barton picked him off, you got Arden Key, Jeffrey Simmons, and some of the other defenders. They're doing the celebration back to him, right? And then the day before, he found somebody for a touch. I think it was the Ridley one, actually. He found Ridley for a touchdown, and Tony Pollard did the celebration to the defense. So anytime you're imitating somebody, like that's, imitation is the greatest form of flattery. So you got that. But I think more importantly, just the way they talk about him, I think the way that you see the back and forth going, the willingness for the receivers, even veterans like Van Jefferson, even Ridley himself, they discuss things and then they give a hand clap, but then they go right back to it. And a lot of times the things that they discuss or the adjustment that they make, because you see them kind of acting it out, you'll see it happen later in practice successfully. So I think all of those things kind of make these guys really believe that he's the one for them.
Talking with ESPN NFL Nation Titans reporter Turron Davenport here on Robby and Rexrode. I thought a great example of it was earlier this week, Cam Ward going back and forth with Jeffrey Simmons. And I know there's been a lot of talk about whether Simmons is a good leader for this team. And, there's been talk about whether he should be a captain, but that is the guy that you have to kind of impress a little bit on this team. And it seems like with Cam Ward immediately going at it with, the biggest, baddest guy on the Titans defense, that's got to instill some confidence in his teammates as well.
It does. And J.C. Latham, that's one of the things he said. He's like, man, he was talking and Simmons was a little too close and he headbutted him. And I love that. That's what he said. So I think when you look at that, it's all just a part of the big picture where they've needed this type of swagger from the quarterback position. That's even what Brian Callahan said. He said that, it's a different type of energy that they may not have had before on the offensive side of the ball. But he also said, and this is the key when you're talking about Jeffrey Simmons, he said Simmons being at practice, like it elevated the energy there. So that tells you the presence that he has.
Who else, TD, stood out to you? It does seem like Oladejo at times is flashing, and obviously they badly need, they need some people obviously on the edge to make things better than they look on paper. Who comes to mind as someone who kind of caught your eye this week?
Yeah, Oladejo had would-be sacks yesterday and the day before, and I think with him, what flashes to me, first off, it's the presence. It's the enthusiasm he has for being out there. And then you watch. I mean, this is a guy that there's a running play and, Tajay Spears, Tony Pollard, whoever, they'll string it all the way out, and run to the end zone. He's chasing them. And I think it's the energy that he brings. It stands out to me. But there's still a long way to go with him, right? So let's not act like he's going to come in and be Javon Curry's part two. You still have to have some progress from him. And I think that's the key about this time right now is you don't get too high, you don't get too low. You know what I mean? And that was one point that Stillman made that I do agree with, right? He said, the 20 out of 21 people went crazy over that. But then you got the 2 interceptions he threw yesterday, and some people were upset about that. Neither one is going to really elevate your blood pressure. You know what I mean? So you just got to just stay even keel. But another guy that did stand out, Cody Barton, 2 interceptions, and then just the leadership that he brings. I watched the mic'd up where he was just really coaching David Bender through some things. And then even yesterday watching him and James Williams, and he's pointing to different things. It stood out to me.
TD, I did want to ask about the offensive line. I know it's really hard to get a great read on things, but I know the defense, they throw different things. They were throwing pressures and things like that. Do you have any? Well, I guess we keep going with confidence. Today is like a reminder of like how often I use the word confidence, but but that is like, do you have any same lower, higher level of confidence in the full picture, understanding that right now it's Corey Levin, with the ones at center?
Well, Levin, he drew a lot of praise from Callahan yesterday, but I think it's all you could look at some things as far as them getting their steps right and at least getting their hands on the blitzer, et cetera. But I don't really put much into offensive line until the pads go on. So I'm not really going to make a comment about confidence or anything like that. There's still a lot of work to do, put it that way.
Looking at the 3 rookie wide receivers, I think it's fair to say all 3 of them have shown flashes. Who stood out the most there? And we talked earlier about the back end of that receiver room with Bryce Oliver, who had a big day yesterday, and Restrepo and James Prochet maybe add something in the return game. How do you see the back end of that wide receiver room working out with a lot of young pieces in there?
Yeah, well, James Prochet, he quietly had a good day 2 days ago. I mean, he had some really good catches, a diving one. He had a slant he caught and ran away from everybody. So he is something to be reckoned with. We were talking about this receiver group. It's going to be really interesting because, Xavier Restrepo, he had a down day yesterday, but, the other 2 days, I mean, he probably caught anywhere from 12 to 15 passes. So he's someone where you work the middle of the field. You don't ask him to stretch the field. You just work the middle. You ask him to stretch it horizontally, not vertically. I'll put it that way. It's going to be a tough competition, right? Because you got Chimere DK, who we know he's going to make the roster, but he gives them a different type of slot, and that he is the guy that you could stretch the field vertically with, run those deep over routes and those types of things that he excelled in at Florida. So it's going to be a tough competition. I think Alec Ayamaner, I think he wins that X job. Tyler Lockett hasn't really done much, but he's a established pro, so he's going to be in the mix. And Ridley, and I think I should have mentioned Ridley when I talked about guys that stood out, because he is a guy that I've never seen a receiver practice with more urgency and more like every rep that he goes through. It's like runners do. And you appreciate watching a guy do that. So it's going to be a competitive group. I don't know how that one's going to shake out. If they keep 6, man, it's going to be a pretty solid receiver released, and we'll have to see. And it's unfortunate Colton Dow, he's been hurt.
Last thing for you, TD, on that front, I thought what Fossil said on the in Restrepo and special teams, I thought that was really interesting, and I thought it was a great point about how like safeties are kind of like that's like you can do anything with them in special teams, and that is kind of what he is physically. Did you, when you heard that, did you like his chances better? Because I immediately was like, I've kind of been wondering about him because I don't know that he really helps on special teams, but now I'm like, actually, maybe he could.
No, I always wondered how he could contribute on kickoff team. I know he's not a 4-3 guy, but he's more in the 4-6 realm. He could be a gunner as well. So, I mean, it didn't really increase any chances I thought he had. I think it's good that they're looking at him from that perspective, but it didn't change anything for me.
All right, Turron Davenport, TD, NFL, ESPN, NFL Nation. Thank you, my friend, and we'll talk to you next week.
I appreciate it. You guys take it easy.
When we come back, we will react to some of what TD said, get to some of your thoughts as well. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Hey, everybody, join Chase McCabe and Big Joe Dubin this morning as they broadcast live from Maple Street Biscuit Company, located at 2407 8th Avenue South in Nashville from 9 to 11 a.m. Get some free crispy tots with the purchase of any of their delicious biscuit sandwiches. And also, sign up for your chance to win tickets to an upcoming Nashville Sounds game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode. Sponsored by First Horizon. Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. We are broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, Air Conditioning, Game Nashville Studios. Home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service. Jake Lyman in today for Robby Stanley. And let's see, Jared said, what did he say? You have like blue on your tongue?
Yeah,
so
something.
I didn't think you were being that much of a homer.
I try and be fair, but also, you gotta. It's June. I don't think there's that much you can be negative about right now.
Well, you can be. I mean, you can make up things to be negative about, like someone saying, "Yeah, I'm confident." Oh my God! Let me have some fake outrage for an hour straight. Someone asked on the text line if TD can set Jared straight on confidence. I mean, the take was, I think, it was after the TD power, right? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So
TD, you'll have to do that next week. I still haven't listened to. Apparently, they got after it. I never listened to that segment, so I'll have to go back and check it out. TD, interesting thoughts on on Cam. Look, one thing I take away from that is he's flat out a better quarterback than Will Levis. I mean, obviously people bet. You certainly hope so if you're a Titans fan. You certainly hope so if you're the Titans. You did take him 1-1 as opposed to top of the second round, so I guess in terms of draft positioning, that would add up. But also different years are different levels of quality from QBs overall. And this was not a vintage year. But look, I'm with you. I think that all these things, like the ping pong and everything, one thing it definitely adds up to is endearing yourself to teammates and having a natural kind of feel for that stuff. Doesn't guarantee anything with his play, but those are positives to me. That's not being overly positive to point to that and say, yeah, you can tell that he has a good feel for that stuff.
Yeah, at this point in the year, obviously they're putting in plays and they're installing and there's a whole lot going on in terms of scheme. But at this point in the year, when you're not putting the pads on, you still have 5 weeks until training camps open. Being a good teammate and a good leader is probably just as important as what is going on the field. And when everybody reports back in July, that's when you actually start playing quote unquote real football and the live bullets start flying. And I think that's going to be when you can really start to take things from what Cam Ward actually does on the field. Like, it's great to see him, make a check at the line, read the blitz, and hit Calvin Ridley for a deep ball earlier this week. But is that really going to lead to any tangible results on the field in September? Probably not. I think right now it's more just about endearing himself to his team and continuing to grow as a player. And once we get to July, we'll see if he has 4 book days in training camp or something like that, and if he can keep that confidence.
Yeah, and but that's another thing that TD, and I think that is, if you want to talk about a contrast, that is definitely notable. That well into camp last year, the Levis Ridley, why can't you get on the same page thing was a very frequent topic and question being asked to both those guys. And we had Michael Draco on from ESPN who covers the Jags, and there had been some stuff like that with Ridley there. So it was kind of like, is it more on Ridley? Whatever it was, it took him time. It does look like right now there's an instant clicking with those two. That's going to be huge. I mean, look, Calvin Ridley is the best receiver on the team. I think that's indisputable.
Yeah. And
he's got to have a big year for them to have any chance of being competitive.
I think the receiver room is deeper this year than it was last year, but you still have to have that guy who can be 1,000-yard receiver like Calvin Ridley was last year. And you're right. Last year we spent most of June and July talking about, can they get on the same page? They still aren't hitting the deep balls right now. And it led to issues in the season. Will Levis underthrew Calvin Ridley in Chicago on a deep ball. He threw a pick on a ball to Calvin Ridley against the Jets in week 2. And then he had the throw to Ridley that ended up being a touchdown against the Jets, but I'm not so sure that was Levis. It was more Ridley making adjustments. So, it's good to see that that's not an issue right now. And they seem to be in sync, whether that's talking about the the touchdown pass that's made the rounds on social media, or the fact that they're playing ping pong against each other in the locker room. I think both could have an impact on that relationship.
Apparently Ridley's better than Ward there, so he must be a confident ping pong player. Paul Kaharski has weighed in with the don't put too much stock into the Fossil comment, but so my whole thing is, in terms of like Fossil's a positive, he's positive, and some coaches are like that, right? Some coaches are, Brian Callahan's like that. Brian Callahan is going to trend positive. He's going to look at the bright side of things. He's going to, he's not going to typically, like Mike Malarkey when he was here, like he would not be afraid to just talk about someone struggling or their injury or whatever it is. But my thing with Fossil and the Restrepo is just that I thought the way he broke it down it just made me think of it in a different way. It made me think of Restrepo as a special teams guy in a different way. Whereas I think in my mind, it's always like, do you have the speed to be on the outside in special teams? And you can find a role. Again, you have to be good at it. You have to be able to tackle. You have to be fearless to a certain extent. And I don't know if he has those elements, but if he wants to make the team, that's where it gets interesting. And like, if you can do more than one thing on a football team at the back end of any room, that usually ends up being really valuable.
For sure. If you're going to be wide receiver 6 or 7 on an NFL team, you can't just be a wide receiver. That's
or the fourth running back or the fifth, sixth linebacker, et cetera, et cetera.
If you're on the team that deep on the roster, they're not putting you on the 53 just to sit there and maybe go run 3 routes a game. Like, you're going to have to do something else. So if Restrepo wants to make the team, I think he is going to have to prove that he can play special teams. And you're right. It's speed is an element of it, but I think it will be a question of, if he's a gunner, can he go hit somebody and wrap up a tackle and do that kind of stuff?
It could be a wing. He might be a wing on punt.
He may not be a gunner, but
but
that's part of it.
Good at, every person on the field does actually have a job. So can you be good at it? All right, when we come back, weekend winners, Robby and I are in an absolute dogfight. Connor Newt is picking for Ian. Weekend winners coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
It's time to pick some winners. We hope. Robby and Rexrode have weekend winners for you. Now
on ESPN
1025 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
It's that time of week, and I'm trying to figure this out. So a week from today, what will we still have? We will still have. We could. I mean, we may be done with both of these series, right?
Maybe one of the game 7s would be a week from today.
So we could,
actually no. The NBA goes late, so Friday, Monday, Thursday, and then Sunday would be game 7.
Okay, so we could potentially have a game 7 in the NBA,
and then NHL game 7 would be a week from tonight.
Okay, so we could potentially have both game 7s. All right, and then we still have the College World Series. So I think, okay, so this will be the next to last week then of weekend winners. And right now, Robby and I both went 4-2 with our locks last week. So we are both tied for first. Ian went 3-3, didn't get his locks. He is 2. We were all tied going into last weekend. So Ian is 2 points back. He is counting on Connor Newt today to bring him home.
I'll do my best.
So we've got 3 games that we're all picking, then we're all going to pick 3 of our own. First game. And Jake, feel free to weigh in with, if you want to.
Sure.
I mean, you can maybe try to talk Connor Newt out of a pick. That might be a bad pick.
If you need help, you just let me know.
We can tag team this.
Okay.
We're pretty good at weekend picks, so
that's true.
We can do this.
There we go. All right, so first one, Thunder Pacers tonight, game 4 in Indy. The Thunder are -6, so a lot of, and the Thunder are very good, and it was a heck of a win for the Pacers in game 3. We will go with Robby first. He is going with the Thunder and making that his lock. Immediate lock for Robby. There we go. That was a very quiet guarantee. Charles Barkley is he more meek now that he's on ESPN? Connor Newt. Actually, I guess I'm supposed to go first. Whatever. We're tied first. I'm also going Thunder. I'm going to give those points. And what do you say, Connor?
I will also go
Jake.
Thunder to be boring.
I would go Thunder too.
This series is usually either the Thunder lose close or it's a blowout. I don't think it's going to be a blowout, but I think the Thunder will win the next 2.
So we're all in agreement on that one. Stanley Cup Final, Game 5, back to Edmonton. They're flying. They're trekking halfway across the globe, immediately playing tomorrow, which is interesting after an overtime game. You wonder the fatigue factor in this one and if maybe a little lineup tweaking to try to be fresh. But it is all tied up. Incredible game last night. Let's go with me first. I'm going to go with the Oilers. Robby, also going with the Oilers. What do you guys say?
I'll go Panthers. I think they have the momentum. Obviously, Edmonton just won in overtime, but the Panthers are just stone cold killers. They always seem to bounce back. So we'll go Florida.
I was leaning Oilers, but not strong enough. You feel good, Panthers? Go Panthers.
Go Panthers.
And you know what? Ian trails us both by 2, so he needs to make a move.
We got to take big swings.
Exactly. He's got to differentiate himself anyway. Okay, game 6. We'll go to you first on this one. This is going back to Florida for game 6. What do you say, Connor / Jake?
I'll go Edmonton in game 6.
Okay.
Yeah, this one feels destined for 7 games. So, if you go Panthers tomorrow night, got to go Oilers in game 6.
Should we lock it up?
Oh, I don't know about that.
Yeah, let's not.
Especially because we don't know the result of game 5 yet. Yeah, I don't know.
Yet.
Yeah, locking the not knowing what the situation is. Yeah. All right, so we are both the other way around. So we both going Oilers at home. We're both going Panthers, Robby and I both. So this is a chance for Ian, if it flip-flops, for him to be tied before we even get into the individual picks. All right, individual picks. We'll start with Robby. He's got 3. He's got baseball tonight. He's got Rockies, Braves minus 1.5, and he is going with the Braves. I've also looked at the baseball schedule. You may be surprised to hear. White Sox, Rangers. White Sox at the Rangers. Rangers minus 1.5. Give me the Rangers for my pick. And Connor / Jake, your first individual pick for Ian.
Lyman, let's go with your old faithful boys.
Yeah, you're going Tigers tonight?
Tigers tonight hosting the Reds. I like the Tigers to win. Minus 1.5. I think they cover.
I can't say they're the best team in baseball anymore. They're half a game back of the Mets. Montero's going tonight. I'd feel better about tomorrow if you'd want to do that. Flaherty throws tomorrow. But, I'm always good with
We're taking
Tigers.
swings here.
Okay, we're taking swings. Tigers tonight.
And by the way, 2/3 of the show right now today is Tigers fandom, which is very exciting for me. And by the way, let's go to Robby. He's got Reds Tigers tonight also. He is going Tigers -1.5 against the Reds. So a lot of Tigers love on the show.
All right.
My second pick, White Sox Rangers tomorrow. And DeGrom going for the Rangers. That's going to be Rangers -1.5. Make that my lock on a Saturday game.
So you're going back to back.
I need to hear it. I need to hear it, Connor.
What?
I just made it my lock.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Make me. I need that. There it is. Okay.
Sorry, he's a little quiet
There
today.
he is. Okay. All right. Your second pick for Ian.
Let's go over to NCAA baseball. Give me the Chanticleers to take down Arizona. And you know what? Since I'm feeling a little special, make it the lock.
Yes.
-1.5 to take down Arizona.
And they are -1.5?
They are.
Okay. I love it.
Actually, I like that because college baseball games, I think you can get into blowout territory. So,
yeah,
we'll see.
I love it. I am here for the Chanticleers and Murray State. Okay, and we'll go ahead back to you for your third and final pick for Ian.
Oh, let's go back to the MLB. My St. Louis Cardinals are playing tonight. They are playing the Milwaukee Brewers. They got shut out last night by Jacob Mizorowski.
Jacob Mizorowski in his debut.
He was dealing. I think they bounce back. I think they win. They are also -1.5, which I guess is just the standard for baseball.
Yes.
Eric Fetty versus Freddie Peralta. I think the Cardinals cover +1.5. Give me St. Louis.
So wait, but the Cardinals are minus, or they are plus?
Yeah,
plus.
Milwaukee's the favorite.
Okay. There we go. All right. Robby, his third and final pick. Giants, Dodgers tonight. All of his are MLB tonight. Dodgers -1.5. Going with the Dodgers. So there you go. And for me, I decided to look around the schedule, and I found White Sox Rangers on Sunday. I just got a feeling about those Texas Rangers. Give me the Rangers -1.5. I'm counting on the crappy, awful, hateable, terrible buns Chicago White Sox to finally bring me home and win this competition.
I mean, if you were going to go with the sweep for a series, I think that Braves-Rockies series in Atlanta might have been the one to go for, though.
I'm actually surprised that Robby didn't have
Just
more.
didn't go for all of them?
Yeah, have more, because he's definitely leaned in heavily on the whoever's playing the Rockies. But, I don't know. I got a feeling about the Texas Rangers. I don't know what it is.
All right.
Just feel it's going to be there. I mean, Chicago is playing better. They are also still 7-28 on the road.
No,
so.
they are not good, but they are better.
They are playing better.
They are better than their worst record in 100 years last season.
That is true. Making progress. Congratulations, Chicago White Sox. When we come back, we will wrap up the show. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Well, it's our last segment on Robby Rexrode, so I probably should give away these tickets, Connor Newt.
You may have to.
Holiday World and Splashing Safari in Santa Claus, Indiana. Make a splash this summer at the water coastal capital of the world. Take your family to Holiday World and Splashing Safari. Just a short drive away. Get tickets at holidayworld.com. I've got tickets to give away. Let's go caller 3 for Holiday World tickets. Jake Lyman has done a yeoman's job of filling in for Robbie Stanley today, even though Jared
just being a homer.
Yeah, claimed you were being a homer. What do you want to talk about in the last segment? I have something I want to talk about.
Go ahead.
I want to ask you about the team that you call as the play-by-play announcer for Vanderbilt women's basketball. So we talked about a little bit about this off the air. Ayanna Moore transfers to Notre Dame.
Right.
When I saw that, I was like, man, just another scorer shooter. I don't love that development. Vanderbilt has Michaela Blakes coming back. I think Michaela Blakes has the limit. I mean, I think Michaela Blakes can be one of the best players in college basketball this year, and I think she's going to be a pro, and I think the sky's the limit, and that's the type of player that can take a program to special things.
She should have been the National Freshman of the Year, and I will argue that. I know Sarah Strong won it, and very good year for Sarah Strong, obviously won the national championship at UConn, so don't want to take anything away from her, but all of the metrics they used for Sarah Strong were the advanced ones. I'm like, all right, well, Michaela went on the road twice and dropped 50 on SEC teams.
Yeah.
That's never been done before. She broke the SEC.
By a player, not just a freshman, by a player.
By a player. She broke the SEC scoring record twice, broke the NCAA freshman record, broke the true freshman record, then the all freshman record for the NCAA. So Michaela, I can't even imagine what she's going to look like in year 2 with a full off season with Shea Ralph and that staff over there. And then Camille Pierre is back too, who averaged close to 20 and 10, if I'm remembering correctly, and had a huge start to the year, had a huge game down the stretch in the NCAA tournament against Oregon with the loss in overtime, and then brought in 2 pretty big post pieces from other SEC schools. Aaliyah Del Rosario was a former McDonald's All-American at LSU. She is 6'6", so I may be wrong, but I think she is the biggest player that Coach Ralph has had since arriving.
And she's never really had a big post since she's been here.
Right. And I think it helps because Camille Pierre had to play in the paint most of last year because Sasha Washington missed the entire season, and some of the other younger post players were injured and maybe developing a little bit more. So moving Camille to the 4, maybe the 3, I think is going to be helpful for her. Sasha Washington's back this year. And then most recently last week brought in Texas transfer Jakalenga Mwenentunda, who she's 6'2", averaged like 4 and 4 last year with the Longhorns, but went to a Final Four. So a lot of experience they're bringing into that room.
So Ayanna Moore is out, and I like her as a complimentary scorer. I have liked her. She's going to Notre Dame.
Yep.
Do they have enough on the perimeter to help Michaela Blakes?
That's probably the question, which it's funny because I think the last couple of years it's been the backcourt's great. Can they rebound against SEC bigs? Now they've got the size, but they need a kind of running mate for Michaela Blakes. Again, I haven't been out there. They just started working out again this week. But Aubrey Galvin is a freshman from Chicago, and then Ava J. Black is a freshman from Boston, who are both kind of guard wing players. Galvin's more of a point guard. So I have a feeling that they're pretty confident in their ability to make an instant impact, considering that they didn't bring in a transfer guard this cycle through. And then Madison Green, who was coming off a torn ACL last year, another year healthy. She's shown a lot of flashes. So I think she'll be an important piece in that backcourt too.
So what are we talking about here? Like what's because I've seen some preseason rankings, that have Vanderbilt right around the top 10, 15 range. I mean, is this a team you think could be like a deep NCAA tournament run potential team?
I think this is a team that was disappointed in the way last season ended because their goal was to make the Sweet 16 and get past that first weekend, and obviously came back from down 20 in the first round against Oregon, still lost in overtime. So I think they're going to have a chip on their shoulder. I think this is a team that could easily be hosting NCAA tournament games in Memorial Gym next March. There, a lot of the outlets, like you said, top 10, top 15, the top 16 teams get to host. You're playing an SEC schedule, so you're always going to have, those kind of metrics on your side because the SEC is always a gauntlet. Going to play Virginia in the ACC SEC Challenge, which was announced yesterday, and it's always a great day to beat the Wahoos.
Yes. You get to go back home, but to
No,
rival territory.
they're coming here.
Oh, they're coming here.
Thankfully,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Vandy had been on the road for the first 2 years of the ACC SEC Challenge, so finally get one here. The rest of the schedule not announced, but I think this is a team that 3 or 4 seed possibility in the NCAA tournament, and at that point, you're hosting games, and I think the expectation would be second weekend and see how far you can make a run.
How good do you think Tennessee will be this year?
They'll be better. Yeah, I mean, they last year, quote unquote, a down year, they made the Sweet 16 and beat UConn for the first time in a long, long time. And they brought in a lot of talent from high school and transfers. So I think Tennessee is going to be good. Kim Caldwell's system fit in the SEC a little better than I thought it would. But there was some fatigue down the stretch. They lost to Georgia at home to end the regular season. So you wonder if maybe that continues to happen. But she's getting her own players in to run that, run and gun offense that they play, and 5 in, 5 out.
Just hockey line changes, and
so
it's fun. It's fun.
It is fun, and it's as a broadcaster, it's tough because it's like you've got to. The players aren't on the floor for very long, so you say one person's name, and it's like, oh, when did they get out there? But it's a fun system to see. The first shot's the best shot, and now, like I said, she's getting her players in. Like last year, she had to take a lot of what was already there.
Yeah.
Now she gets players that are kind of custom fit for the system she wants to run.
Because I do look at, I look at men's basketball too. Obviously, a really exciting first year for Mark Byington. We know what Tennessee is, and I think that there's good potential. And Vanderbilt has had some success now at home against Tennessee. But what's the potential for women's basketball to be a rivalry where, kind of like baseball, where it's not just a rivalry that's intense in the state, but like it's actually two relevant programs nationally having a rivalry for a period of time?
I think last year was really important for that because even as Vandy's program ascended, they still couldn't get over the hump of beating Tennessee. Like, made it back to the NCAA tournament in 2024, but was 0-2 against Tennessee. Last year, Vandy had the Michaela Blake's buzzer beater to beat Tennessee in Nashville, which was a huge moment, and then beat them pretty handily in the SEC tournament. It wasn't a 15-point game, but I don't think the game was ever in all that much doubt. So first time ever that Vandy has beaten Tennessee twice in the same season. I think that's huge because now it's not, it's a rivalry game, but we've beaten you 19 out of the last 20. Now it's, all right, we've beaten you 2 times in a row. This year, the game's going to be in Knoxville. So it'll be interesting to see if Vandy can win in Knoxville for just the second time ever.
Yeah. I mean, you think back to like Vanderbilt's peak. This program has made a Final Four. This program has been to Elite Eights.
Right.
And even then it was, because at that point Tennessee was just the program. And so even then it wasn't, the wins weren't frequent. Obviously Tennessee, it's been a long, and we'll see if Tennessee can ever get back to that level. But I feel like you got 2 really good coaches. I know that Shea has kind of changed her style with her personnel, but like both of them, I like the pressuring. I like the up tempo. I think it's a lot of fun.
It makes it interesting, those contrasts of styles, because Shea and the coaching staff, they like to get up and down the floor, but not quite as much as Tennessee does.
Pure, yeah.
But I think Vandy is they're a huge proponent. They tell me pretty much every game of their good defense is going to lead to scoring on the other end. So it is interesting to see, the high pace. It's basically like 7 seconds or less that Tennessee runs, and Vandy's trying to trap them and force bad passes and turn that into points on the other end. So I guess the schedule will probably come out in the next couple of months. I think that's one that a lot of people are going to instantly circle, is because now it's only guaranteed once a year with the new scheduling changes. They're going to circle that game in Knoxville, Vandy and Tennessee.
So that is just going to be in Knoxville this year?
Well, I guess there is a chance that they could play twice, but it's not a protected. There are no protected rivalries in SEC women's basketball anymore because you play 16 games, so you play everybody once, you play one team twice, and they didn't protect any rivalries.
Yeah, which I don't like only 16 games. When you have a league this huge,
right?
I don't
think
see
18,
why you don't at least play 18, if not 20, but play 18, right?
Yeah, which it makes sense, but also with how tough those games are, like.
Yeah, it's a grueling league.
You don't want to go 6-12 in the SEC because that might kick you out of the tournament, even though you're probably better than a team that goes 10-8 in the ACC.
Yeah, but we saw with SEC men's basketball last year a bad league record didn't seem to matter. Yeah, I mean if your league does well enough against everybody else, it should.
The metrics will show that you're better than those teams. So
should pay off.
Yeah, I agree. I think 18 games it'll eventually happen, but this year, no guarantee that Tennessee makes a return trip to Nashville.
I really hope that Robby is listening. Robby, who tries to limit my college basketball discussion. He spends his entire life is built around not letting me talk college basketball. It's been very liberating today.
No, it's fun. It's fun. And, especially during the off season, I don't get to talk much about Vandy women's basketball. So it's cool to give a little update out there. Should be a fun season starting November.
And this will be your
fourth year.
This is your fourth year of calling games. Man,
yep.
The years are
flies by.
Yeah, no doubt. So we have a NBA game 4 tonight. What are we looking for? I mean, we all picked the Thunder. I hope we have a good game. I mean, it is at Indiana, and that atmosphere, I think, does help. I think in basketball,
yeah,
it helps. It matters. But I feel like everybody just thinks, okay, Oklahoma City is going to reassert themselves.
They're not going to go down 3-1. But it could happen again. It's
can we
Indiana.
get a good game?
Yeah.
You know? I have to think we're going to get a good game.
The Thunder, I'm forgetting what series it was. They went down 2-1. Was it the Nuggets? They went down 2-1. And
yeah, I think that's right.
Then blew out Denver on the road in game 4. Like, I think that's kind of what everybody has in their minds. But Indiana hasn't been a typical team in this postseason. Even if they go down big early, there's nothing saying that Halliburton's not going to lead another comeback.
No, look, I have completely changed, and this is where the playoffs are great because how much Indiana did I watch this year here and there? Legit team and a really fun team, easy one to root. I'd love to see them win it. I mean, I think for either fan base it'd be great, but I do think OKC, everyone's talking dynasty. They're going to be knocking on the door in the next few years without question. And I'm not saying Indiana won't, but I'm not sure in the East that they're like, this is an opportunity.
Right. The Celtics got upset. The Cavs laid an egg. They're going to be
injuries were part of it.
There are going to be some really good teams in the East. I think the Thunder are going to be the team to beat in the West for at least the next few years.
Yeah, agree. And that'll do it for our show. Chase and Big Joe coming up next. Thank you, Jake Lyman. Thank you, Connor Newt, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.